guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing well today. So in today's video we're going to be doing a full face of cream makeup. So a full face of creams, liquids, gels, anything that is just not a powder. So I thought this could be interesting because I know a lot of people are kind of tentative when it comes to using cream products. Like there's the obvious ones, you know, like foundation, primer, concealer. People are used to those ones being liquid, but I feel like as soon as it goes into liquid bronzer, highlighter, or even eyeshadow, a lot of people don't really know where to go. So I figured I would show you how I approach cream products and maybe you'll learn something. I don't know. I'm definitely not saying what I do is right, but it's just how I kind of make these products work for me. I'm definitely not an expert, especially when it comes to cream eyeshadow. I don't really tend to use it that much. Another great thing about cream products is that they tend to give you a more natural kind of finish, more dewy finish, which, as we know, I like a lot. So yeah, I guess we'll just get started. Meep. Do you want to get zoomed in? Should we zoom you in? Let's zoom you in. By the way, I just realized that this is the first video that I have up with my new background. What do you guys think? I hope you like it. I really love it. I love having the green in the back. I just think it adds like some more livelihood. And now I have twinkly lights, you know, like the professional YouTubers. Okay, so getting started, I'm going to be using my little ears here because when it comes to cream products and long hair, you better bet that your hair is going to get stuck in them. So I'm just going to use my little Piggly Wiggly ears. Actually, I don't know if they're cat ears or pig ears, but in my mind, the pink ones at least are pig ears. But let's just move into the skin. So I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Tone Adjusting Face Primer today. And just take a couple of squirts of that and put it all over. I don't know if this actually adjusts the tone of my skin at all, but marketing, you know. So I'm going to be using my Clarins BB Skin Detox Fluid today, and I'm just going to take a couple pumps of that on my Sephora 45 multitasker complexion brush and just dot that around and buff it in. Now I'm just going to lay it down first with the brush, which is typically how I prefer to apply foundations. I'm just going to lay it down with the brush and then go over it with the sponge. And the reason I like doing that is because the brush kind of helps spread the product all over my face without it getting sucked up, because the brush hairs suck up a lot less product than the sponge does, because I find with the sponge, if I just start pouncing it on, it just sucks most of the product up and I have to use more. So if I use a brush like this one first, I can kind of move the product more. Okay, so now that I have that done, it looks pretty good, but I just want to pick up some of the excess product that I've laid down, as well as smooth out the streaks that the brush has inevitably left me. And it's not just the brush, because I've tried many brushes and they all leave streaks on my face. It's probably just my technique. So again, I have no product on my sponge. So moving on to concealer, I've got the PS My Perfect Color ultra-longwear concealer, lightweight, full coverage, hyaluronic acid. I don't think it's full coverage, but I do like the way it sits. And it's in the shade Nude. So because I don't have powder today to set it down, I'm going to be even more reserved with the amount that I use. So I'm just going to put a little dot there. Just a tiny dot there. And I'm just going to put it over my mask blemishes. I'm going to be a little more liberal down there because I don't have to worry about my mascara transferring there. So again, I'm just trying to blend on the inner corner first because that's where personally I get the most darkness. So I'm just blending there and then blending out here, which is also where I get darkness. And then anything left over on my sponge, I'll just run underneath. And that'll help the product look less cakey, as well as crease less and transfer less. I don't know when I started getting so much darkness out here, but if you find, just like a little tidbit of information, if you find that your concealer is not covering up as much darkness as you want it to, and you're just putting it in there, try putting it out here, because you'd be surprised how much darkness and purple hues come from over here. So obviously my eyebrows look like trash right now, so we're gonna go and get those done. So I'm just going to use a spoolie and spoolie through them. So I'm going to be using the Maybelline Tattoo Studio Brow Gel in the shade Medium Brown. Now, I know I cut this part out of a lot of videos because it's the same every time, but all I do is take a tiny little angle brush like this one and take the product off of it and just run it through my brows and slowly build it up. This way you get all the color payoff, but you don't get all the crunchiness that you would if you just put that straight onto your brows. So moving on to face products now, when it comes to bronzer, that's kind of another step that I like to do using a brush first and then the sponge to blend it out. So when I go in with a sponge, I find that it just kind of diffuses way too much and there's no real control. Whereas if I use only a brush, I find that I can't blend it enough and it looks too harsh. And I know some people love a harsh, sharp, cutthroat, you know, contour line, but I don't love it because, as I think I've mentioned before, I have no cheekbones really, like my face is just a circle, so I don't personally want to fake it till I make up that much. I'm going to take my e.l.f. Cream Contour Palette and using my Real Techniques Expert Face Brush, I'm just going to dab into this first shade up here in the corner and I'm just going to put it right on the tip, and this brush is kind of like a tapered brush. So I'm just going to take some on there and I'm just looking at myself. I'm going to go right where my ear is. And because I want most of the shadow to be at the back, I'm just going to kind of keep it no farther forward than here. And again, I'm just taking small amounts and kind of building up the color where I want it. So I'm just going to leave it there, go back in with my sponge and angle the sponge how I want it to blend. So I'm not going to angle it like this because I don't want it to blend that way. And the great thing about a palette like this is that you can kind of deepen it up, or it can be used for multiple different skin tones. So I usually like to start with something like this just to lay down a foundation and then go in a little bit more with this one. This one's just too dark for me, but I like to go in a little bit more with this one, just right close to my hairline and my ear, just add a little bit more shadow. And again, it's really just building and building until you feel really comfortable with the kind of techniques that you like to use. So I just like to slowly build because, as I say with everything, cooking, you know, makeup, really that's the only two things that I do in life. You can always add more, you can't take it away. So I'm still just going in slowly with that first color until I am happy with the way that it's looking, which is pretty much now. So I'm just going to take that same brush again and dip just so slightly into that darker shade. You can tell right there how little it is. And just tap it right there, right by the hairline and the ear, because that's where we want the most shadow to be. So I'm just tapping it in a little bit with the brush just to start diffusing it, and then I'm going to go over it again with the sponge to try and blow it out a little more. And with this color, I'm not bringing it far forward very much. I'm just keeping it back there. And I'm going to leave it there for the cheeks, but for the forehead, I'm just going to go in directly with the sponge, tap in a little bit, and just try and add a little bit of shade here. Okay, so moving on to blush. I'm going to be using this Wet n Wild Makeup Stick blush shade in the shade 803 Floral Majority. And I'm just going to go in with that with my e.l.f. airbrush stipple brush. Airbrush stipple brush. A lot of brushes. So for this, you can of course use your sponge if you want. I just kind of like the density that the brush gives me. So I just go right on the product and pick it all up. And then I like to dab it into my hand so that it's dispersed evenly on the brush and it's not just gonna go straight onto my cheeks in like a holy Christ. So when it comes to this, I just like to start farther back, which is where I want more pigmentation, and just start pouncing. And just bring it forward however far you like. I've been liking keeping blush up here more recently. And it's that simple. I would highly recommend this brush. Now, if you wanted to blend out any harsh lines that you may have got, you can always just go back in with your sponge again because it has some leftover foundation and concealer on it. Just bounce right over the edges so that it melts into your skin a little bit more. So moving into highlight, I've got basically the same thing as the blush stick, except it's a highlighter. So the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Highlight Stick in the shade 800 When the Nude Strikes. So for liquid highlighter, I really just like to use my finger. So when it's in a stick form like this, I just like to warm it up first with my fingers rather than striping it on the face. When you stripe it on the face, it's a little bit more difficult to blend out. Whereas if you warm it up first, just like that, you get it on your finger and you can just kind of tap it in easier. I just mixed easily and easier. So I'm just gonna put it where I would normally put my highlight. And just use tapping motions. Again, not dragging motions because that'll disturb the product underneath. In my humble opinion. Take that with a grain of salt. The thing that I love about liquid highlighters is they just kind of melt into your skin and look like you're glowing from within. Sorry, I'm flipping you guys off. I just realized that. Whoops. And again, like with any of these products, you can use a brush, your hands, or the sponge. It just depends what you like best. I personally hate working with my hands because I don't like when my hands feel icky, but highlighter is kind of one that I make an exception for. So moving on to liquid eyeshadow. Now I still don't really know how to use liquid eyeshadow that well. I don't usually use it very often. Outing myself, I'm sorry. But we're just gonna do it. I've got this as the kind of transition shade, which I think will work pretty well. And then I've got these two PS liquid foil metallic eyeshadows. So I don't know, we'll see how life goes, I guess. Sometimes she goes, sometimes she doesn't. I'm gonna use the same theory that I used on my cheeks for my eyes. I'm just gonna use like little by little. So I'm just gonna go into this top shade here with this random eyeshadow brush. Oh, I should probably put eyeshadow primer on first. So I'm just gonna use the Milani eyeshadow primer. Done. Going back in with the brush. I just tapped into that darker shade there and just putting it right on the outer corners. That was the easiest thing in the entire world ever. The lighter one's dried out, so I'm going to use the darker one, which is still fine. It's a beautiful copper tone. So when it comes to liquid eyeshadows like this, you can, for the most part, put them directly on your eye, but the only problem that I find with that is it's very difficult to blend out the edges without losing all the pigmentation. So I like to work with a brush, at least initially, to lay it down, and then if I find that I still need more pigmentation, then I can go in directly in the center of the lid with the liquid product. So what I like to do is just put some on the back of my hand and take a flat paddle brush. I'm just gonna take this small one here from Lancome, and you can see it's kind of flat but a little fluffy. It's not completely densely packed. I'm just gonna tap in to the product, get it loaded up on the brush, and tap it on. This way you can blend back and forth a little bit. And I'm really just using the very tip of my brush to wiggle back and forth right on the crease here to try and blend it a little bit. So I'm just going to go back in with that initial brush that we used and just tap right over the outer corners. So I'm just going to go in with my Pure Fully Charged mascara. For lips, I'm just going to do something really simple, just a gloss, because the whole look is pretty simple. So I'm just going to go in with this e.l.f. lip plumping gloss in the shade Praline, and if that's too dark, then I have another one to lighten it up with. Okay, so that color is very pretty, but I am just going to go over top of it with this same one, but it's the same product, but very different packaging. Interesting. This one's in the shade Mocha Twist. This is the final makeup look using a full face of creams, liquids, and gels, no powders whatsoever. So I'm going to show you a zoomed in version to see how you like it. So there it is, all zoomed in. You can see all my pores. I have like so much lip gloss on right now though. You can see here what I mean about how it just adds like a little bit of a shadow. and the highlighter is more of a natural highlight. That is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something about using cream makeup, and maybe you are more likely to try it next time. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up down below, and you can also leave a comment if there's something you liked or did not like, as well as hit that subscribe button and the little post notification button if you want to be notified of all my future uploads. I hope you guys are having a really great day, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!